Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Tutora. Welcome to Tutora Time. So who was that masked man? Yes, the masked man. We have to talk about the masks. It's a year, 1 year, and everybody is still wearing a mask. If you wanted to control a massive amount of people and have them obey, something like telling them they must wear a mask to prevent other people from getting sick would be the way to do it. COVID has a 99.5% recovery rate. How much lower could it possibly be? It was supposed to be 2 weeks or 15 days to slow the spread, then a month, then 2. We're going on 12 months, and people are walking around like robots wearing masks. You know, if these masks actually worked at stopping the spread of COVID, there would be no more COVID. There's one study that's been done on masks. It says that 1.8% of people who always wore a mask got COVID, and 2.1% of people who never wear a mask got COVID. That's statistically insignificant. Masks are not meant to be worn in this open environment the way we're doing them. It really does nothing except give people some psychological comfort, and the damage it's doing is so incredible. You know, the immune system, the human immune system that has evolved since the beginning of time did not magically fail during Donald Trump's re-election year, and it hasn't failed now. This little piece of paper is not the answer to your problems. You know, whether it's God or nature, whatever your belief system is, if we would have needed a covering over our nose and our mouth, we would have evolved that way. We would have been created that way. At what point does this become suffocation? You know, I posted a meme a couple of weeks ago as a joke saying that if you're a person who's afraid to see somebody without a mask, just wear 2 masks. It's the same protection. I meant it as a joke. And lo and behold, within 7 days, Dr. Fauci is up there encouraging people wearing 2 masks and 3 masks.
Make sure you wear a mask. So you wear a mask. Then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
Okay.
That's all they're saying.
But if grandma's vaccinated but grandkid isn't?
Yeah, then you got to be careful, because grandma could still get virus in her nasopharynx, even though the vaccine is preventing her from getting physically ill. She still could have virus in her nasopharynx.
So even if grandma's vaccinated and can't get sick, she still should wear a mask because she might have a virus in her body that doesn't get her sick? This makes no sense. I mean, remember when you were a kid, putting something over your head, your mother used to freak out, and now they're putting everybody in masks. The damage, the psychological damage that this is doing to children is unbearable. There are children now whose your first memory is like when you're 4 or 5 years old. So there are children 4 and 5 who have lived an entire year looking at everybody wearing a mask. Their first memories are of people wearing a mask. What do you think that's going to do to them long term? We're raising fearful, neurotic children. We're depriving them of interaction with each other. Did you see Kamala Harris yesterday in an interview babbling? She doesn't even have an answer to simple questions of when to open schools.
We are, we wear a mask, social distance, and make sure you wash your hands and do that frequently. And so the recommendations include what, again, needs to happen around social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing. But the point is that we all want our kids to get back to school as quickly as possible and as safely as possible.
Is it safe for them?
Well, I think that we have to decide if we can put in place safe measures.
Parents watching, what is the bottom line?
So our goal is that as many K-8 schools as possible will reopen.
Public health officials will say this closing of schools is as much of a public health crisis.
They ridiculed and insulted Donald Trump over COVID, but they don't have any answer because Trump did everything you could do. He sent out the protective gear, and he developed the vaccines. He followed all the guidelines, but these lockdowns and masks are destroying people.
The fact that, by the end of third grade, if a child is not at third grade reading level, they literally drop off. That every day our kids are missing essential, critical days in their educational development.
COVID deaths are not the only important thing, and COVID is real. My mother passed away from it, so I'm not going to make light of it, but she was 88 years old living in a nursing home, and Andrew Cuomo sent patients into her nursing home, and you could look at my other video on that. Children are being deprived of interaction, of the socialization they need.
So each day in the life of a child is a very long time.
High school students having their last years of high school and their sports scholarships ripped away from them because there's no more participation. People are working out in gyms, breathing in particles of their mask and their own bacteria that's sitting on their face that cannot be good for you. I know young people who have gone through college doing fantastic, and now they want to quit. They want to give up because they can't deal with the online learning. They are isolating people, and this is the goal of people behind these mask mandates. If you want to control a large population, world population, you need to make them obey. And this little paper mask is doing exactly that. It is insane what's going on out there. How do young people even meet? How do you meet people? How do you communicate with people? People are dying of loneliness and isolation, not seeing their loved ones. The other study that came out is asymptomatic spread. They show there's no such thing as asymptomatic spread. If you have no symptoms, you can't give COVID-19 to somebody. I know young people who have had the virus, people in their 20s, they have the sniffles for a day, and that's about the extent of their COVID-19. If nobody ever told you had this virus, you wouldn't even know. Imagine that, a virus so deadly you have to be tested to even know that you have it. When I was young and they would talk about socialism and things like that, I never really worried about it because I said Americans are so independent and individualistic, they'll never give up their individuality to go along with something like socialism and groupthink. It's frightening how fast people have dropped their individuality. In 1 year, everybody is walking around in a mask. What comes next? What's going to be the next virus? What's going to be the next thing they tell you that you have to do for other people's safety? They've convinced people that freedom equals selfishness. If you want to live as a free person, you're selfish, you're endangering others. The whole thing is illogical. They still sell cigarettes. They still sell alcohol. People are going to die of that. They're not banning that for watching out for the others. And, when they talk about wearing a mask for the good of others, I say not wearing a mask for the good of others because you want to protect people's freedom and you want to protect people's liberty. So start to think for yourselves, people. It's not going to change until people take back their rights for themselves. You can't wait for the government to do this. You have to stand up. When people decide not to wear a mask, that's when it'll go away. Places like Florida, where there's large elderly populations, they don't have spikes. They don't have these high cases of COVID, and they're not masked up and locked down. Same thing with South Dakota. Open your minds, people. Claim your rights. Claim your freedom. Don't let them strip away your identity. Once they strip away your identity, there's no more self-esteem. There's no more confidence. You just wilt, and you turn into this faceless automaton, which is really what they're trying to do. And we've lost all rationale and all reason in 1 year. It's a frightening moment in history. We're entering a new dark age where reason and logic and intelligence is gone, and people follow the words of the so-called experts. Well, we're not going to do that here. We're going to keep living free. We're going to keep speaking out. So join me again on Tutora time. Hi everyone, it's Nicholas Tutora. Now more than ever, it's so important to keep free speech alive. So make sure you click the subscribe button so you can stay part of our conversation.